Hello there, welcome in to the latest edition of the SAU Football Coaches Show. I'm Daniel Gallegos, joined alongside head football coach Bill Keopple. And Coach, this is the first Coaches Show of the 2016 season.
Wow.
The year is almost here. Your team is getting ready to travel to Weatherford, Oklahoma to kick off the year, a special Thursday night game here on Labor Day weekend. A lot of excitement just in general for college football being back, but particularly in our level Division II. I know you guys are ready to go as well.
Yeah, we're ready. I mean, it's time to play. I mean, you've been here for fall camp for 3 weeks, and you hit on each other for so long. You only take so much of that. It's time to get out and play. We had a very physical spring last year, the most physical spring we've ever had as far as contact. We wanted to find out how tough this football team really was, and we found out a lot of positive things about our football team, and really feel good about it right now.
You know, looking ahead, you talked about camp. You brought in around 100 or so guys. A lot of them are familiar with SAU, familiar with the system. A lot of returners coming back, not a lot of turnover. You do bring in a good crop of freshmen and a few transfers sprinkled in every year. But talk about that core group of returners back and what it means, because a lot of those guys were either freshmen or sophomores that played a lot for you last year. So another year of experience, but still a lot to go.
Yeah, I mean, we were a very young football team last year. I don't know that most people really understand or know that. I mean, you look at our starting defensive ends, both of them were redshirt freshmen, and their backups were true freshmen playing. And so we were a very young football team. Barrett Renner taking the field this time last year for his first college football game. We had no idea what to expect. We really didn't, there were a lot of unknowns going into the season. There's always going to be some unknowns going into the season, but right now, when you look at our football team, we got a first-team all-conference quarterback coming back. We got our leading rusher from last year coming back. We got 3 of our top receivers coming back. We got our entire receiving corps outside of one person. Tevin was the only senior we had in our receiving corps last year. So there's guys on this football team that caught 171 passes last year from Barrett that are back. So that's positive going in. We got 3 starting offensive linemen back in our offensive line of scrimmage. Probably the biggest area we felt like we had the most concern about. We made some nice adjustments with our football team and moved Chandler Nance from defensive line to offensive line. He has made the transition, went through spring and fall, looks really good. He is in our starting left guard position right now. Feel really good about him. And Kobe Geeson is at our right tackle, a guy that played last year. And you put them in with Chris Paul and Mark Jenkins and Marquand Edmonds. We got a solid first group there. In the group that we had in behind them, the depth right now in our offensive line is surprisingly looking really good. So I'm very encouraged with that group on the offensive side of the football. And then you look at us defensively, we lost 1 defensive lineman off of last year's football team. 1. We lost 2 in the secondary. We lost 1 linebacker. That's it. So that's not losing a whole lot. I mean, we were able to bring in a transfer defensive lineman at nose guard, Travis Williams. He's out of Mississippi. A kid comes in here on a academic scholarship, makes a 3.85 his first semester at Southern Arkansas. Great kid, great player. I mean, we're having a hard time blocking him right now. With him and Calvin side by side, side's pretty good. And then you get on the outside with Lyson and Malachi and McCann and Washington and Hill. I mean, that's pretty formidable bunch right there. And we have a nice group of depth in our defensive middle also with Owens and Newton and we got a freshman and Smallwood that's really looked good, and Dusty Greer's in there. So we got a lot of depth in our defensive line. It makes us feel pretty good where we're at.
In years past, particularly since 2012, kind of when your program really turned a corner and you started seeing the fruits of your labor, the success, getting your types of players in, one of the big things has been success at home. You've had an outstanding record at home. Now on that, there's kind of a flip side to it this year, and just kind of how the scheduling worked out with the 11-game schedule last year, the beneficiaries of it with truly 6 games at home. 1 of them played in El Dorado. This year it's flip-flopped, 5 scheduled home games, 1 of them going to El Dorado, so really just 4 at Wilkins Stadium. So a majority of your schedule going to be played on the road and more or less road games. And so talk a little bit about that, knowing how much of an advantage it's been and the success you've had at home to where your program wants to take that next step.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, that's very frustrating. I mean, you look at the Division I level, and they're going to play 8 home games every year, and play about 4 on the road, and people can't really appreciate that unless you're in the coaching profession and understand that. I mean, that's difficult. I mean, we're 18-3 in Wilkins Stadium in the last 4 years, and I'd love to play them all there. I mean, you know, the advantage you have in Division II, travel is not easy in Division II football. You jump on a bus, and we're going to ride 7 hours to Weatherford, Oklahoma, and you're going to get back on that bus after a game, and you're going to eat a pizza and drive 7 hours back. I mean, that's tough, and that'll wear on you. That's the big part of the advantage in road games. Unlike Division I, it's the noise. I mean, that makes it difficult. I wish we could play more games at home, but that's just the way our league's set up, and I'm fine with that. You know, El Dorado's being very good to us, inviting us to the Classic, Murphy USA Classic every year, and that reaps some benefits for our program also. So you just got to suck it up and play. I mean, it's going to, you know, as your team becomes more and more mature, they can handle that. We were not that last year in the fact that we were a very young football team. I mean, 7-4 is a good year on most people's anytime. You'd take that a lot. Most teams would, but you know, we're at a point now where we're ready for the next step. And I think mentally we're ready for the next step now. So it's very important we get started off on the right foot when we go to Weatherford.
Yeah, you know, your first big road test, first game of the year, going to Weatherford, Oklahoma. That's a team that it's been almost a full year since you played them last. You know, started off last year with them at Wilkins Stadium. The last few years they've been very close games. Last year was a close game, came down to 1 or 2 plays, and you know, SAU came out on top. And then as their season progressed along with yours, they got better and better and wound up, I think, winning 7 in a row down the stretch and then getting a berth into the bowl game. And so they ended up with a very positive season for themselves. They probably have high expectations going into this year. Everybody does at this point, but just kind of preview that game, knowing that they've got, you know, quite a few of their players back too, and how close this series has been, not just in terms of wins and losses, but points.
Yeah, you know, it's been a very close series, very tough. I mean, they're going to be a tough opponent. They're always well coached. They've got 8 back on offense. They only have 3 returners on defense, which is positive, even though they've got 4 that did play some for them in backup roles last year. You know, you look at their schedule, and you can get that a little bit skewed out of proportion there. I mean, you look at the last half of their schedule, and that's where the easier competition was for them. And you know, they still had some nice wins late. Obviously, they beat Harding. I mean, that was a great win, and for some reason they've given Harding fits. I hadn't quite figured that one out, but you know, they finished the season with 6 straight wins in a row. Finished out strong. Went to the bowl game, and which is frustrating from our standpoint because we beat them and they're in the bowl and we're at the house. The year before we beat Southeast, they're in the bowl, we're at the house, and you know, it's our time to get some postseason play, and it's all going to start with this football game. I mean, we've had some good battles over there with them. We've won it in Weatherford before. The last time we went over there, we had an 11-point lead with 9 minutes to go in the game, and we're driving and thinking we're fixing to put this thing away, and the next thing you know, we throw a pass and we got a first down, and our receiver gets hit and the ball goes straight up in the air, and they got it running the other way, and the game flipped on us. So that's a little bit of the maturity. We still had the lead at that point, but you got to be mature, you got to bear down, and you got to go ahead and finish it. And we weren't able to do that the last time over there. So we don't expect anything more than a tough, hard-nosed game all the way to the end, and that's what we got to go in and prepare for.
We appreciate it very much for your time. Again, that's head football coach Bill Keopple. 2016 football season is upon us. The Mule Riders open up their 2016 campaign this upcoming Thursday in Weatherford, Oklahoma. Kickoff at 6 p.m. Be sure to check MuleRiderAthletics.com for all your pre- and post-game coverage. Coach, we appreciate it. Best of luck.
Thank you.